Welcome back. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle, and I've got a Christmas movie, the first Christmas movie that I am reviewing this season, as it seems. The film is called Silent Night. It's Christmas in the Godluck household, and the festive cheer is palpable. Brian, played by Joel Kinnaman, frolics in the yard with his 7-year-old son Taylor, played by Alex Brazino, and his wife Saya, played by Catalina Sandino Moreno, records their final happy moments together because right at that moment their peaceful suburban lives are shattered by stray bullets from gunfire between rival gangs. Now, Brian sets off in a blind rage after those who stole his son's life from him, but unfortunately he's blindsided and attacked by GI7 gang leader Player, played by Harold Torres. Now, Brian is viciously gunned down, including a shot to the throat, and he's left for dead. Now, he is in recovery for months, and while as he's starting to heal, he begins to realize that the damage has actually left him unable to speak and not even able to scream out in agony. The investigating officer named Detective Vassal, played by Kid Cudi, tries to help, but the Godlucks are just one tragedy of many, and the case goes nowhere. So Brian begins drinking. His relationship with Saya disintegrates, and he refuses to move on from his pain or to even really acknowledge hers. Now, with nothing else to live for, he has only one thing left on his mind: revenge. And he's resolute in he intends to for next Christmas to be one to remember. Now, it's currently April, and he has months to prepare, and so he's going to turn himself into a one man killing machine to avenge his child. And he's not going to need his voice to do this, he's going to let his trigger finger do the talking. Now, this film is actually from legendary action film director John Woo. John Woo's rightfully cemented himself as a legend of action cinema. Throughout the 80s and 90s, he wowed audiences both in his native China and abroad with his distinctive visual flair and his explosive violence. He somewhat pioneered the heroic bloodshed genre, which doing so he revolutionized how we as audiences would see cinematic gunplay in movies from that point onwards. The whole flying through the air with twin guns firing at his enemies. That's all John Woo. This influenced video games, uh, other movies, comic books. Really, he has had a huge impact on action cinema. Uh, his transition to Hollywood, sadly, while it was long awaited, was kind of hit and miss. He did make classics such as 1997's Face Off, but he also made some duds like 2003's Paycheck. Now, 20 years after Paycheck, he makes his return to American films with a script directed by Robert Archer Lynn, this film being Silent Night. Now, stylish as ever, the film features almost no dialogue and instead focuses on expressive visuals, hard hitting sound design, and of course, plenty of violent gunfights. Uh, Now, films about revenge can come in all forms, with many differing greatly in approach. John Woo himself has made several diverse examples, but beyond that, very often the basic structure from one vengeance film to the next can be damn near indistinguishable. And Silent Night's Spartan technique really boils the entire genre down to those brittle bones, which leads to a film which is loaded with John Woo's slick and emotive identity, but it's very thin on story or character. I mean, it would be unfair to say this movie has no substance to it whatsoever. You just really have to squint to see it. We see the breakdown of the Godlocks' marriage in the wake of their tragedy, and over the months, rather than being celebrated, family holidays such as Easter are spent by Brian trying to training to kill. Um, Saya's first Mother's Day without her child is just ignored by her husband, and even the eventual Christmas deadline that Brian has given himself is chosen purely for its significance as the anniversary of Brian's horror, not because of any festive reasoning. And like many say, well, many still debate whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie or just a movie set during Christmas. And I see the same discussions happening with Silent Night. It very clearly is a movie, particularly in the latter half of it, is largely set during Christmas, but there's not a whole lot of Christmas themes going on there. Now, I've found the elements of revenge, a character basically in such trauma over loss of his child that he basically throws away his entire life, including his marriage. I found those aspects of the story interesting, and I wish they were explored further. But sadly, that's really where the depth of this film's script ends, as since there's very little to no dialogue, there's also little to no character or plot or really intrigue to the story. Um, it is a very basic revenge story that goes exactly in the direction that you would expect it to, from a script perspective. But the fact that this film has such a bare bones script means that it allows director John Woo to do the heavy lifting with his emotionally charged, expressionist handling of this material. Now, I actually was taken aback by this film because, in some ways, Night is it's like an art house work, and it may just be the most authentically quote unquote John Woo film of John Woo's entire Hollywood career. I mean, his American films. English speaking audiences may only know John Woo for the gun violence and the flowing camera angles and the random bevies of doves that those things are mostly all you really saw of him, of his style, from his more watered down Hollywood films. But I mean, make no mistake, all of these kind of things are present in Silent Night. There's the slow motion camera work, the gun battles, the action, and it may take longer to get there than some action fans would like, but the film's explosive final half hour is just as loud, brutal, and action packed as one could hope for. But it's John Woo's romanticized, dreamlike storytelling, which you can see in some of his best Hong Kong films. Like this can be sappy and even melodramatic, but this is what makes classics like 1986's A Better Tomorrow or 1989's The Killer such hauntingly beautiful masterpieces. Now, Silent Night's unconventional screenplay allows John Woo to take us on a likewise sentimental journey that really is kind of not bound by any kind of language barrier. the fact that there is almost no dialogue in this movie means that you don't need to be able to speak English to understand the emotions that John Woo is putting forward. Now, to be honest, without John Woo, Silent Night would really just be a mediocre action revenge film. But thankfully, with his masterful skill, he elevates the picture to another level altogether. Now, it may not be for everyone. The film is deceptively slow to build up to the action-packed shootouts that many filmgoers will be looking for, but those with I believe those with a wider understanding of John Woo's films beyond the gunfights are in for a real treat. As yeah, he really delivers something, an experience that's quite unlike anything else you'd see from Hollywood today. So in some ways, I found this film very interesting. Story wise, I thought it was kind of I thought that the lack of a story really dragged it down, but John Woo really did elevate it. So I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was really an interesting film, and like I said, it's probably John Woo's most um, yeah. It's not like it's not really like many of John Woo's other American films, with the exception of perhaps Face Off, but it's very much like John Woo's Hong Kong action films of the late '80s and early '90s. So yeah, give Silent Night a try if you're looking for a if you're looking for a violent action-packed Christmas film which isn't Die Hard. Yeah, give it a go. You're listening to CentralCoastRadio.com, and we'll be back right after this.